even though I did audio checks, it messed up anyway, and I filmed a 44-minute long video only for it to have no sound whatsoever. So there's that. So I had to replay the game because it all saved over it. So let's go back to what I was gonna do. So yeah, there's that. If I don't act surprised during certain scenes, it's because I already saw it. But I will tell you what I think still.
In broad daylight, I could finally appreciate the house in all its full glory. Although I wasn't sure if glory would be the accurate word. The house was big, maybe the biggest one in the town. But it was also very old, and in a serious state of neglect. Nina and I noticed all of the bedroom doors were locked, and a thick layer of dust was noticeable around the cracks. I smiled as we walked past the library. Apart from my own bedroom, it was the only room on the second floor that didn't look like it had been abandoned for the past decade. Everything was just as I felt it should be. The night before, among all the excitement of my wedding night, I had completely disregarded the strange familiarity of that hall. In the morning light, however, I could now see it clearly. This was my father's house, Nina.
Oh, Alice. Can you remember?
Not really, but I just know it is.
You came back faster than I thought, Nina. That's... Wait a second. Lady Alice? What are you doing here?
Lady Alice.
Lantier, why didn't you tell me?
Oh, please. My lady, it is perfectly normal to bleed.
That's not it. And just so you know, nothing happened.
Then what's the problem this time, Alice?
So much for lady, huh?
Don't get cocky with me, girl.
We need to talk. Why didn't you tell me he was taking me to my father's old house?
Where else could he have taken you?
I don't...
In case you haven't noticed, this isn't a big town. That house, it's the only grandstanding residence left. When I came here, there were 3 of them. One was the Marquis's mansion, which eventually became this institute. But the biggest one must have been the Girling estate. However, it was almost irreparably lost by that time. When your husband inherited what was left, he tore the entire building down and burnt it to the ground. He donated the land to us, and the plot remaining is now the orchard and the vegetable garden.
Really? This place doesn't look like much of a mansion, much less 2 of them put together.
This may be news for you, but we are better off than most of the town. It's not uncommon for very poor families to give up their girls and place them under my care.
Why are you telling me this?
You are no longer my ward, Alice. This means that I can finally talk to you just as your father's daughter.
You knew him well.
Everybody knew your father. He was, after all, our doctor. He was a man we all trusted to relieve us from our suffering.
In most people's eyes, he was nothing but a murderer.
People often forget the good things he did. He may have taken one life, but that doesn't change the fact that he saved many more.
I don't think he killed anyone, though. I think he was framed, and then he was murdered afterward.
They all hate him.
It's more complex than that. He was a well-loved man, an inspiration to many. What happened that night was even more painful because it broke the hearts of all the people who knew him. There is no greater resentment than the one that comes from shattered admiration. And in the end, it was up to the few of us, those who knew him well enough to keep on loving him despite everything we'd heard and seen, to raise and care for the beloved daughter he left behind.
You've never talked about my father like that before.
Why are you still wearing these clothes anyways? Seriously, Leah made you all look like you're wearing some sort of uniform.
Somebody tore my other dress to pieces.
Good riddance.
I have nothing else to wear.
I will see to it that this is rectified on your husband's account. Now please get going.
But aren't you...
What more can I say to you? If you want my advice, it would be that you trust your husband. But we both know you'll eventually end up doing as you please.
Will you please tell me more about my father?
If you like, but not now. In case you've already forgotten, I have other issues to take care of.
On my way back home, I realized that this was the very first time I'd been outside without anyone to watch over me. Lantier had always been afraid of what the townspeople would do to the murderer's daughter if they were to catch her. However, my new status as Lord Girling's wife created a shield around me.
I wouldn't say that.
People would stare at me, even whisper amongst themselves. Yet, nobody dared to get anywhere near me. The boldest among them greeted me with a barely audible, "Lady Girling," then turned away. And, of course, there was the not-so-rare girl who would straight up give me the evil eye. Those made me feel right at home. What they didn't know, however, was that I was just as afraid of them as they seemed to be of me. I had never been outside like this before, and I had no idea how to react to any of them. I really wished I had Nina, or even Leah, to walk home with me in that moment. Yet again, I couldn't just let my awkwardness show. I was far too proud to do that. And I wasn't about to let them know that they had any sort of power over me. I straightened myself and strode onward like I owned the town. Never mind the little fact that I didn't even know my way back home. About an hour later, I still had no idea of where I was going to. What's worse, I had ventured into the ugliest part of town, and people were getting a lot less polite.
The docks.
Looking good, sweetie.
Ew. Catcalling.
I felt as though 300 eyes were staring right at me.
Hey, nice freckles, honey bun.
I took a deep breath. Lantier had always warned us that some men, particularly around the docks, were prone to yelling all sorts of nonsense to the girls from the Institute. She always told us not to give them the pleasure of upsetting us, that it was best to just ignore them if we were all alone.
Hey, sweetheart, I got an itch you can scratch.
Ew.
Ignore them, Alice.
But you won't, will you?
I clenched my fists, just trying to get out of there as fast as I could. But it was like the docks kept going on forever.
Ah, now that is one whole chicken.
A chicken? Really? I immediately regretted my sudden outburst, because when I looked back, there was a beastly-looking giant right behind me. I started running, without even looking where I was headed, desperate to get away from that man as soon as possible.
Whoa, 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 easy there.
Fred.
Sorry, oh crap.
Look at the way his neck is twisted. It's like, bro.
Relax, girl. Tell me, what's a pretty one like yourself doing all the way down here?
Get out of my way, please.
I found you.
Excuse me?
Let's go back home. It's getting late, and you must be getting hungry.
With that giant brute behind me, I really didn't have much choice but to accept his help. Right, home then. I noticed that my stalker must have been dissuaded by my sudden encounter with this boy. I sighed in relief and allowed him to escort me back to the nice part of town. I believe I should be able to find my own way now.
Good.
I was kind of expecting him to go his own way, but he just kept on walking with me.
I really wish Fred would have like explained himself. It would have been a lot better for Alice, so she wouldn't be so confused.
I'm going to the big house by the beach.
It's good to have someone living there again. People were starting to say that the house was haunted. Can you believe it?
Really?
Yeah, completely abandoned, except for that old housekeeper. They think she's a ghost.
I thought Lord Girling lived there.
He might as well be a ghost too, don't you think?
I see. He talked to me in such a familiar and gregarious manner that it was getting on my nerves.
Why are you giving me the evil eye?
Because I don't know you.
All right. I'm Frederick, but everyone else calls me Fred.
Nice to meet you, Fred. Now can you...
Nice to meet you too, Spunky.
Spunky?
You know, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from you, but now I can see that you're kind of interesting in your own way.
What?
You have spirit, and that's quite something. Also, you're different from most girls. I never thought much of freckles, but you seem to make yours work for you.
Thanks, I guess.
Could be your lips as well. I don't rightly know.
Right. Look, I'm finally home. But he just walked in with me. All the way into the dining room.
I like how it didn't click that Alice that he might work there.
Oh, this place. It's pretty big, eh? Almost as big as an house in the capital.
Yes, it's quite a large house. Thank you for walking me home.
Say, Spunky, how about I pick you up later? We can go out into town.
Well, this is kind of awkward.
Ah, come on, it'll be fun.
I really don't think I can. I'm a bit tied up at the moment, you see?
It's all perfectly innocent, I assure you. We won't get near the docks, I promise.
I'm married.
I know.
Frederick.
Morning, boss.
Do you know him?
I trust everything went well.
Of course it didn't. A giant tried to murder me.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Calm down, Spunky. The man didn't even touch you. He was just following.
Like, that's even better, Frederick.
No way. If I hadn't used Fred as a decoy, that man would have killed me for sure.
Used Fred as a decoy. More like he just talked to you and you followed
A
him.
giant, you say?
Yes, a beastly giant of a man.
I guess I'll look into it then. Did everything else go as planned?
Sure thing. Ship's packed and ready to sail.
Good. Any news from Inspector Gilbert?
Still flapping his jaw about the wedding. Seriously, boss, you should get married more often.
Excuse me?
No offense, Spunky.
Don't you have anything better to do?
I think I do. Boss, Spunky.
Yeah, I noticed this with the video that failed that the dialogue for Fred was reversed, which was interesting. So it's a little glitch, but it's okay.
I never thought I'd see the day when I'd find myself longing for breakfast at the Institute. The cooking here was terrible, to say the least. I wasn't sure what I was eating, but it tasted like boiled gruel. It wasn't just the food, though. Up until yesterday morning, my breakfasts had been filled with the sounds of many voices and laughter. Even if I didn't have many friends, I would always spend breakfast time chatting with Nina or Leah and feeling right at home. Here, however, I found myself sitting across the table from my husband, who wasn't even eating. He just sat there, looking as though he'd rather be somewhere else entirely. I wondered what I was supposed to do about him, about any of it. Were we in some sort of relationship? Was I supposed to, eventually, jump into his arms and pronounce my undying love? Or something like that? This has to be the most awkward breakfast I've ever had.
You don't say.
What are you supposed to talk about the first time you wake up with somebody?
Technically, we didn't wake up together. There's a 60% chance that I would remember it if we had.
Just trying to make conversation here.
You didn't seem to have any trouble with that last night.
That's because you're so different in broad daylight.
Really?
I don't know. You just look a bit more stately.
That's bad.
I picked the topics last night anyway. It's your turn.
In the purely hypothetical event that we had, in fact, woken up together,
What should we be talking about?
it all would depend
On what?
on whether or not you were naked.
Pervert!
You're the one that started it.
You started it.
See?
This is the last time I tried to make small talk with you.
And just when we were about to get to the fun part. You said something last night.
I said many things last night.
You said you didn't really have a plan for yourself after the Institute.
Well, I don't. I'm nobility. So I guess I'm expected to just do nothing until I die of boredom.
Not necessarily. I mean, would you really mind just getting on a ship and sailing off to wherever life may take you?
A life of freedom, where I could make my own rules as I go. Cut off from the chains and expectations of a society that will never understand me.
Pretty much.
On board a ship?
That's right.
Are you suggesting that I should become a pirate?
Well,
Miss Ellis, your flowers have arrived.
She handed me a card and left. For the beautiful bride. It was unsigned.
I know who may have given it to her.
I had never seen such an elaborate arrangement of flowers, or so many of them together for that matter. It was an eyesore. I looked at my husband. He looked at me. I appreciate the gesture, husband, but don't you think this is a bit convoluted?
if you ask me, I think it's a floral abomination.
Then why did you send them?
I didn't.
I know who did.
I see.
Well, I already knew before I filmed the video because, like, I kind of had a hunch.
Any ideas regarding who your secret admirer may be?
Yeah, and it got confirmed as I played on.
And I'm supposed to tell that to my husband?
You already told me about the chaser.
What makes you think he wasn't the one who sent the flowers?
Because I seriously expect him to have better taste than that.
I guess you have a point. I'd felt the same thing on our wedding night, when I started telling him all I knew about the chaser. There was also this showman, you see.
Really?
He performed on the night of my birthday. Have you heard of him?
Everyone has heard about him, I'm afraid.
but I don't really think he would have sent me flowers. He only asked me out on a date. It would have been my very first date. I guess I'll never.
I'm sorry.
Did you ever go out on a proper date? I mean, I know we're nobility, and it's forbidden for us to date, but have you ever gone on an illegal date?
Excuse me?
I won't be jealous or anything, I just want to know.
I don't think I have.
Are you seriously implying that you've always followed the Poseidian custom? I thought you despised it.
Well, I may have broken it in some ways.
Okay, mister. I told you about the showman and the chaser. Now it's your turn to tell me something.
I guess it all comes down to your definition of what a proper date is. But I don't believe I've ever been on one of those myself. The idea of a relationship has never crossed my mind. At least, not until now.
He looked at me, and I really thought he was about to kiss me. Or maybe I was the one who was about to kiss him.
I should be in the library if you need anything.
I
went
like
up
this
to my
part.
room,
Oh, wait.
still unable to wipe that silly smile off my face. It caught me completely off guard to find someone in there, rummaging through my belongings.
I like this little interaction. It's very realistic to how, like, people can hate a kid for never doing anything, even though because of what their parent did. And I like that.
Excuse me? Nothing. The old woman must have been hard of hearing. Excuse me?
I heard you the first time, Miss Alice.
And for her being an old lady, she looks like she has some kind of skincare routine going on. Which is nothing wrong with it, it's just like she doesn't look that old, but she is old.
Then why are you still going through my things? Don't you know that's rude?
I'm the housekeeper. Somebody has to keep this room presentable, child.
I frowned at her. Please do not refer to me as child. I'm a married woman.
A married maiden at best.
Yeah, that's true. She's like 18 or 19.
Was everyone listening while I slept last night?
Though I must say, it was not necessary. The depth of your slumber could be heard all through the town.
Oh, because I was talking about her conversation with gurgling, but she's like, oh, snoring.
My face turned bright red. Nina may have mentioned once or twice that I snored, but I didn't realize that it was that bad.
Oh, Miss Alice, you truly are your father's living image.
Thanks.
It is very unfortunate, considering that your mother was such a beautiful woman.
Yeah, like that line right there, I'm like, wow, that was really rude.
You old hag! Aren't you a bit too rude for a housekeeper?
I served your mother faithfully all throughout her life. She was an outstanding woman who married well beneath her.
What's your problem, lady?
Your father was not my problem, but the whole town's problem.
Everyone hates my father so much.
Your father, Miss Alice, was a murderer and a madman. Hating him is only natural. What really should be questioned is why you don't hate him yourself.
Because she doesn't even know him. Hardly.
He was my father. I couldn't possibly hate him.
Blood ties, as strong as they may be, should not be enough to overlook the barbarity of what your father did.
My father, murderer that he was, saved far more lives than those he took. People seem to always be forgetting that.
The police were unable to find anything. They searched the house thoroughly, but there was not a single thing out of place. Except, of course, for his dead body in the hall.
And me.
Such a heartbreaking sight. A helpless child covered in blood. holding on to her dead father.
I shuddered. Thinking about my father's death was something I'd always tried to avoid.
The official story said it was a suicide. Your father committed suicide by shooting himself through the heart. How about that?
So with this, I can't tell if she's like suspicious of him like killing himself, or like she's just like kind of like a take that kind of comment. I'm not really sure.
Stop it! I don't want to.
But you know what really happened, don't you?
No, she's a little kid.
I can't remember anything.
Just because you can't remember things doesn't mean they can't remember you.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means, Miss Alice, that you must be careful where you put your trust. And if you are to remember something, remember those who have always been loyal to your father and his legacy.
Now that's one cryptic old shrew. Apparently, the old hag had not just been cleaning my things. As soon as she left and I was able to take a look, I found another present waiting for me. I examined the book carefully. It was my father's copy of Frankenstein. I opened it and smiled knowingly when I saw his perfect handwriting on the first page right under the title. What Dr. Frankenstein got wrong. The creature should never be made out of more than one human being. If spare parts are needed, they should only be of mechanical nature. With great care, I undid the heavy leather binding. Right there, hidden beneath the cover, was a small notebook. My father's notes on the Enigmarella project. I noticed that it was not only his name written there, but also that of the man Inspector Gilbert had mentioned, Julian Bartrand. I felt my heart pounding inside my chest. I was holding my father's most prized possession, and his most terrible secret.
Miss Alice, you have a visitor.
Thank you, Miss Hall. Tell her I'll be down in a minute. I made my way into the hall, wondering why Nina, who else could it be, would visit me at this time of day. Didn't she have a job? Maybe that's why my eyes widened so in surprise when I saw that the visitor wasn't Nina at all. You! What are you doing here?
Hello, Alice Rana. Did you think I would forget about you so quickly?
Well, I certainly stood you up for our date yesterday. Assumed you may have been a bit upset.
But yeah, I knew it was Esmond when I first played. I'm like, oh, this is clearly from him, considering he expressed possessive tendencies towards Alice when he first met her.
You know, dear, something tells me that it was beyond your control. Rest assured, I didn't take it personally. Did you like the flowers?
No.
I couldn't help but smile, remembering the outrageous flower arrangement that still littered the dining room as a gaudy decoration. I had found it too extravagant to even consider placing it anywhere else in the house where it would actually be seen. Yet again, I wasn't sure if the showman would appreciate my blunt honesty. I found them a bit too ostentatious for my taste. But thank you anyway.
Oh, Alice, you break my heart. It only seems extravagant because you have been locked away for such a dreadfully long time. But trust me, every girl in the capital would have been jealous.
Esmond is so sleazy, but also kind of charming in his own way.
I wasn't sure if he was patronizing me, or if my taste in flowers really was unusual. In any case, I decided to change the subject. The card was unsigned, though. I really would have liked to know the name of the man who sent me such a grandiose arrangement.
My name, eh? Well, that, my dear, is part of the mystery.
Esmond Wells. Of all people.
And there you have it. The mystery is broken.
They knew each other.
Oh yeah.
My dearest brother, I see you still have a talent for killing the charm wherever you go.
I still think they're like, I mean, it's very obvious they're half brothers, but I wonder like what went down to like, you know, what happened there. Because he very clearly has a different parent than Gerling, and he's also, from what I understand, he's not a nobility, so he can do whatever he pleases with people. So I wonder like what went down between them to like have them separated that way.
Brothers?
If you get what I mean, though.
I'm so glad that you're here. I just got a call from the cemetery. They want their flowers back.
My apologies if the opulence of my gift made you uncomfortable. I'm sure a man of such means as yourself has a far better understanding regarding the value of money.
Not to mention aesthetics.
But seriously, brother, how could you not invite me to your wedding? After all the years you have spent planning to marry this lovely woman, oh, how it maims me.
I was informed that you already had plans of your own.
With Leah, probably.
But indulge me, brother. Who was this lovely young lady that you were supposed to be meeting yesterday?
Probably Alice.
Brothers? You two are... brothers?
It's a long story.
And an incredibly tragic one at that.
Nothing worth telling, really. I think we'd better continue this conversation in the library.
Not...
I agree. We wouldn't want to bore your lovely bride with our quaint reminiscing.
Tea. Tea's gonna be spilt.
We'll be back in a moment, dear.
There was no way I wasn't listening into that conversation.
Sauce. Tea. Whatever. That's beautiful.
I cautiously approached the library's window through the garden. My instinctive knowledge of the house guided me to the most secure corner, where I could hear and watch everything without being noticed.
What are you doing here, brother?
Yeah, they very clearly don't like each other.
Is it so strange for me to be attracted to such a lovely young woman?
When you're probably dating Leah?
Cut the crap, Esmond.
He probably is dating her, considering how upset she got with Alice and stuff, and considering he's probably not, nobility, so he can date her.
Or do you perhaps doubt your wife's appeal? Don't you think she's beautiful enough to catch another man's attention?
Alice's worth is not under question here. But you, of all people, know that she is nobility. What in depth's name were you thinking when you asked her out on a date?
It's been a long, long time since either of us saw Alice Rana. I must have confused her with someone else.
No, you didn't.
You just addressed her by name. You knew exactly who she was. What's more, you knew she was Leah's friend.
Yep. And she knows,
Leah? Why were they talking about Leah?
she probably, Leah probably knows Gerling through Esmond, because they probably are a thing.
And what is your sudden interest in Leah?
Yes, husband. Do tell.
She's a good girl, Esmond.
There are many good girls in this world, brother. Few of them are really worth the time. Besides, I'm not here to talk about Leah. Especially not when you just married such a peculiar creature. Are you really going to settle down, abandon that hectic life of yours, palace in the sky included, and Neptune forbid, start a family with Alice Rana? Do you even want to?
That's none of your business.
Oh, but it is, you see.
Miss Alice, what are you doing?
Busted.
Get down from there before you hurt yourself. Will Mr. Wells be staying for dinner, my lord?
Certainly. Wouldn't dare to miss out on your wonderful cooking, Miss Hall.
It's not good cooking.
Charming, as usual.
So, my dearest brother, are you planning on giving me the grand tour of your new house, or what?
There's nothing to show. Dr. Rana's house is still the same as it was the last time you were here. Or have you forgotten already?
Hardly. But if you insist, I hope you don't mind if I take a minute to admire that wonderful garden you have.
I'd rather not have you roaming around the house by yourself, brother. It's an old building, and it would be a shame if anything happened to you.
Was that a threat?
Maybe Lady Alice would care to join me. I'm sure there's nothing for me to fear with such a brave woman by my side. All settled then.
So this is our wonderful garden. The garden was in such a state of neglect that it was hard for me to even recognize it as anything more than an overgrown field. I had this feeling that it might have been beautiful once, but those days were long forgotten.
Oh, my dear Alice, you should have seen it when your mother was alive.
What's with all those holes?
Move along, people. There's nothing to see here.
The bumpkin is back.
Excuse me?
Wait a second. I know you.
He reminds me like one of those like village idiot people that just like is so out of touch of what is going on, but he still knows what's going on at the same time.
Hardly an achievement, dear boy. Everyone in Pisidia knows me.
True.
Ah, that's not it. You were at the inn the other night with, what was her name?
Leah?
Leah?
Yep.
I'm afraid you must be confusing me with someone else.
No?
I think not. As you said, everyone knows you.
Really? And let me guess. You must be my brother's latest stray.
Well, that was rude.
Why? Do you feel replaced?
Ooh, burn.
Don't flatter yourself.
Is either one of you gentlemen going to explain to me why there are so many holes out here? Or should I go and ask my husband?
That? Well, we're planting cornflowers.
Or are you trying to look for bodies?
You're planting cornflowers in holes that are at least 4 feet deep.
They're big cornflowers. I heard they were spunkies.
Lady Alice, for you. Know your place, dog.
Lady Alice's favourites.
That's not true.
Alice, play along.
Well, they will be. Once we plant them.
So you expect us to believe that my brother has his stray dog digging around in the garden just so you can plant some giant cornflowers?
I don't think I've ever seen cornflowers that big.
Alice, play along, please.
Is there any other reason why I should be digging around in this particular garden? It's not like anyone was trying to cover up a murder, right, Mr. Wells?
Cover up a murder? I hardly think that would be necessary. Everybody knows that it was Dr. Rana who...
I think Esmond may have done something wrong.
You're talking about my father?
Only repeating what everybody already knows, my dear.
Well, I don't appreciate it.
My apologies, dear Alice. I sometimes forget how frail a young woman's mind can be. I should take you back into the house anyway. Let the dog go back to its digging.
Okay. So, we're at 39 minutes, maybe more. So that's cool. Let me save again just in case something bad happens. I will see you in the next video. So if you want to follow my social media, links are in the bio. I also have been posting my Resident Evil and Skyrim videos some more as well. If you want to check those out, go for it. And I also started a new series called the Home Videos, where I just like post a random video from like my past and just show it on here for everyone. If you're interested in that, go for it. I'll see you in the next video.